you start placing a lot of judgments on yourself. And the thing that I've found is that for most people, if putting those judgments on yourself was going to work, it would have worked by now. But it's not, it hasn't actually done anything to like really help you get out of the hole.
Fellas, what's going on? I hope this episode finds you well, and I hope this episode leaves you better than when it found you. Today's episode is with Matt Myers of Nerd Fitness, and he is someone who has a ton of experience in the fitness world, helping and coaching people. And we actually get into a little bit of a coaching session on me and helping me sort of straighten myself out and find ways to get my health and fitness into a better place. And so it selfishly was a great experience for that. And I think that you'll gain a lot of it too. He also offers a free workout afterwards, so make sure that you go and download that as well. But enough from me, y'all. Let's get into today's episode with Matt Myers. Matt, welcome to the Modern Masculinity Podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
Dude, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Take us into your world. What sort of things are you as a guy, a man, a partner? We didn't get into family life, so I don't know if father or dog, dad, like all the roles and responsibilities that you're still carrying as a dude. What are you mucking through today?
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. I've got two kids, 11 and 9. My wife, we both work from home. And so she just had a real cruddy day at work today. So I was kind of being an anchor for her earlier today, trying to help support her. The kids will be coming home in about an hour, ready to tear through the house. And I'm also running our company at the same time from home with my family around me all the time, which is a joy and also its own unique set of challenges within that for sure. But today looks like put out some fires this morning, got some really good writing done, preparing for the New Year's for us is a big time of year. And now I get to do my favorite thing with you. So this is my cherry on top today, which is talk about fitness and health and how to make it all fit when you're have a full life already and lots of other responsibilities on your plate.
It's one thing if you work at home and then everybody else leaves for the day, and then but it's a little different when everybody's home and everybody's seeing each other. Has that always gone smoothly, or are there times where
definitely not? What does smoothly mean in this case? Right? Like, am I able to still be like a functioning, effective person with my work? I would say yes for the most part, but you still have kids coming into the room in the middle of like trying to record a video or being in a conversation and being like, Dad, I can't get on the iPad, like help me with this. Or you hear them fighting a little bit and you have to like take a quick break to go break it apart a little bit. But honestly, for me, I love it. I really love my family, and I would rather be here and kind of be in the muck with everybody all the time than kind of just be on my own and then just like kind of only around for part of the day. So it's a challenge, but it's like, Mark Manson says, like, pick the types of problems you want to have. You don't get to have a life with no problems. You just got to pick the problems you want to deal with. And I like dealing with this set of problems.
It's a great reminder. I made that decision really as soon as their mom found out that, we found out that she was pregnant or that we were going to have kids. I was like, I want to be home. I want to be around, mostly because I saw what I was currently working at, or what I was working at before, which was, 60, 70-hour weeks at the office, come home and eat at home and sleep and then head back out the next day. And I knew that that didn't allow me to be the dad that I wanted to be. And I'm glad you said it, because I'm sort of staring into my recording studio, which is very nice, and I love my background, and I've gotten great compliments on it. And I look across and I see my daughter her backpack is open on the floor, and all of their shit is all over there. And we've got bikes over here. And so my office is, my recording studio is in the garage, and it's great because I'm able to do that. And I'll go pick them up in an hour or two. And also, I need like those barriers, or I need those dividers, or I need like those curtains. Maybe I need some hippie beads or something like that to be more, to have my space more anchored. Because I think that it can be, to your point, it can be a challenge when both sort of bleed over, or if you don't have some sort of way to either draw those boundaries or maintain, those rhythms when all that stuff is going down.
Yeah, for sure. It's something we've had to learn. I've been on both sides because before I was working at my current job, which allows me to work from home because we're an online company, right? I was working in a gym and the hours were basically 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And so I've been on that other side where in that period of time, my kids were both really young and you didn't get almost any time with them. Right. So since I've seen both sides of it, I feel very lucky to be on the side where it's like the problem is I have too much exposure to my family and kids rather than like not enough time with them. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I think I would pick that too. One of the challenges that I think faces just a lot of guys as they move into sort of fatherhood or sort of go up the rungs of manhood, as sort of we come to term it here on the show, is like staying fit and healthy. And like there's the classic,
mhm,
sort of trope of like the dad bod. And I don't know, I've
sure.
even seen something, and you know how the internet is, but something on the internet where it said that like guys, you know, their hormones sort of make it so that they pack on more weight, or basically sort of preps for this sort of phase. And also, I think a lot of guys can use that sort of as an excuse. So, what was that journey like for you? And how have you seen like other guys in sort of your community and stuff overcome that sort of challenge?
Yeah. I would say in general, the journey for me as I got older, like got really into fitness in my early 20s, and then as you get older, you get married. We got our dog, then we got kids, then I have a more demanding job, and you're like, "Hey, this is not the same as it was when I was in my early 20s. Like the demands on my time are completely different. It can feel like your body doesn't respond in the same way. You start picking up aches and pains that you don't remember having 15 years ago, and you're trying to kind of navigate all that. And for me, though, as a coach, as being a fitness coach and helping run a coaching company, one of the things that I tell young coaches coming in is that, hey, like being really good at understanding nutrition and workouts and being able to give like really good technical feedback to someone who's working out is great. Like that's still a necessary skill set to have. But the best quote unquote certifications I ever got in my life were becoming a dad, getting a desk job, and dealing with like injuries and stuff in real life, because that is actually what the majority of people that I work with, that's their reality, right? Their reality is that they're juggling all those different things. And until you can kind of have empathy and go through it, like it definitely teaches you a lot.
Well, it's just you bring up like the fact that it's like there's just so many things to juggle, right? That
Yeah.
like that unless it's a priority, or it seems like, for me, it was like whatever I had, whatever physical and nutritional knowledge I had up until high school was like what I went into like my 30s with. And like
Yeah.
I sort of carried that thinking, or it was like
Yeah.
life. I had stopped, going to health class, or I didn't have health class anymore. I didn't have PE. I didn't have these reasons to be, learning. And it was only, sort of as that's become easier on things like YouTube or with, communities like yours, where this information is so much more accessible, that did I start to
Yeah.
realize like, oh shit, I thought I knew stuff. Like I was actually misinformed in so many different ways.
Yeah, and actually like that's been an interesting transition within my field too, is that before having the information was the thing that I could provide people, right? It was like I could be an expert in X, Y, and Z, and they didn't know where to find that information. And now it's less about knowing the thing and actually it's about being a filter, because there's so much information out there now that people can kind of get lost and like, who do I trust? This person's saying don't eat this thing. This other person's saying that's the only thing you should eat. Like, where's the middle ground? What am I actually supposed to put on my plate? What's going to help me feel at my best? And so you're kind of a filter more than anything else. I love it because my favorite thing is like getting really deep with someone and helping figure out what are the questions they have, what are the goals they have, how can we make this simple and easy for them? Because, like we said, you're already juggling so much. It kind of reminds me, this stage of life reminds me of, do you know the comedian Jim Gaffigan?
Hmm.
Jim Gaffigan has a joke that I like to tweak a little bit for the fitness thing, but it's like trying to work out when and stay in shape when you're in your 30s and 40s can be like you're drowning and then someone hands you a baby. right? Where you're just like, I'm already dealing with so much, and now I have to take care of this other thing on top of all that. Like, what am I supposed to do? And that's really, what I've found. Like you mentioned, what have I found in working with other guys that are going through this period of life? Like, what's going on? The biggest thing is like helping them realize how to navigate their busy schedules, juggling all these responsibilities, that the success might look different, but there's still progress and success to have. Might look different than what it looked like when you were 22 and working out and in college and didn't have and had tons of free time. Like, it just looks different now. And I think that there's a big section of the fitness community that just kind of like tries to throw it on, like, just be disciplined, just get motivated, just do that thing. But I often find it's not like a motivation or a discipline issue, it's a resources problem, right? People are already strapped. You can motivate yourself for a little bit or try to like instill discipline. Like, sure, that helps on some level. But what I tend to see is people get in a cycle then where they are kind of like yo-yoing in and out of fitness, right? They're like, be okay for a little bit. And then something in life will happen. Your kid will get sick. You have to work late. You have a big project at work, a big deadline, and you kind of fall off track. And then it takes a few days or weeks or months to kind of get going again. And then you go through the same cycle all over again. Right. And it's kind of just like, it's unsustainable. I don't think more discipline and motivation is actually the answer for more people. It's about having clarity and support in the right ways.
You're speaking to me. I'm like, oh, he must be following me for the last several months because through the summer, I was like dialed in, lowest body fat percentage like ever. Like one of my goals this year was like to get in the best shape of my life. I was like, all right, did it, check the box, things are going great. And then like shit happened over with, with custody, and we had like some issues, and like, that whole thing blew up with my kids' moms. And so it was like total 180. And as I'm sort of sitting here, like reflecting on it, I'm like, oh, like it was life. And when are you going to stop being a pile of shit and go from, I was, in the gym 6 to 7 times a week. And now it's like 1 to 2. And so I'm like, one, I'm like trying to give myself grace. And two, it's
Yeah.
like, but Matt, what is the, there's got to be a, you said support and clarity. So what is that? What might that look like? Or how do
Yeah,
you
for
define
sure.
that?
Well, dude, let's break it down. Let's talk. Let's help
Okay,
you right now. Let's figure it
I'm
out.
game. Let's figure it
So,
out.
hey, so the first thing I would say is you were working out 6 or 7 days a week over the summer, got in the best shape of your life. That's freaking awesome, dude. Like, well done. Great job. And now you've realized that like you dealt with real life circumstances. I think a lot of people, you were even kind of doing your self talk right there. You're like, well, when am I going to stop being a pile of shit or whatever you said?
Yeah.
Right. Like you start placing a lot of judgments on yourself. And the thing that I've found is that for most people, if putting those judgments on yourself was going to work, it would have worked by now. But it's not, it hasn't actually done anything to like really help you get out of the hole,
Right.
right? You're still kind of stuck in this cycle. So, what I would want to start with is kind of reframing that entire experience with, you did really great. That was an awesome place to be. I'm glad you felt good there. Life is different now. Let's figure out what's going to work for you as a next step from where you're at right now. And so, what does clarity and support look like? Clarity, I think, is first getting clear on what your next step should be based on your current circumstances. So, what's your schedule look like? What are your goals? Talk to me about your goals. What do you want to get back to?
I've always been challenged with that because, I'm a smaller guy. And so it's like, not that there wasn't a lot to weight, but it was like, I found that like building muscle was probably just the best way to go. And so I think like for me, the getting back that number to, 3 to 4 times a week, as opposed to it being 1 to 2, is like a good
Yeah,
start. And I don't know if that's a clear enough goal or what might be
can be.
some metrics to monitor there. But I think that like that's an easy benchmark, and it might even be just I was tracking my workouts pretty diligently, and so maybe there's something there to go into and figure out some
Yeah.
growth with regards to the weights or the exercises or whatever.
Let me ask it this way then. So, one, that's a totally fine goal, right? I think another thing that can trip people up at this phase is they feel like they have to have this like really perfectly defined goal. And really, as long as you have an idea of kind of where you want to head, we can start working towards there, and you can always refine your goal as you go, right? I don't like the goal setting process to be another barrier to getting started, right? Let's just like get started and get moving. So even directionally, knowing like, hey, I'd like to start working out a little bit more consistently feels like a great place to go. And if you think about it from like 12 months from now, and let's just say you like are in a groove of fitness, you feel great, like what does that look like? Like 12 months from now, what does that look like? Paint a picture for me. What's different? How are you feeling? What are your daily actions looking like?
Yeah, I think in terms of daily actions, like I'm back on some sort of nutritional like plan. I think that that was something that was working well for me. Is it was there was a consistent exercise and going to the gym consistently, but I also was not eating. Here's my self talk. Like I'll just say it, but I was not eating like a pig,
Hmm.
which sometimes I think I veer towards because there's no plan, so it's sort of easy to just be like, well, here's another several cookies. So I think like when I think about what I'm doing, it's like I'm tracking, I have some sort of plan, I'm hydrating, sleeping well, exercising, like all of those are just sort of hitting the baseline because I think it sort of enables everything else in terms of the business and my energy with my kids and such. And so I think that just like getting back into that rhythm, that in and of itself is like a worthwhile destination for me just
Yeah.
because of what it'll enable. So like as I think about like a number, it's probably like 150 workouts over the year. I think that when I've sort of charted goals like that are over the longer term as opposed to lose X amount or any shorter term goals, I haven't done as well. And so I think like that might be something to consider.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's great. Both things can be true, right? You can have that process based goal, which is like, I'm doing X amount of things this many times a week or whatever, right? I'm regularly exercising, I'm doing this thing. And you can have outcome based goals like, I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle in the next X amount of weeks. I want to lose this much weight. I want to bench this much. Like they're both great. The thing is with outcome goals need process goals still, right?
Right.
So like even if you set an outcome goal, you still need to figure out the process of how you're going to get there. So I think it's totally great to start with the process. And what it sounds like to me is you found in your life that when you're taking care of yourself routinely and you notice that it shows up for you in how you show up in your business and how you interact with your kids and your family. And so like that's more important to you than necessarily like a specific number or something outside of that. Is that right?
Correct.
Awesome. So let's figure out what are the biggest constraints then, or what are the biggest challenges for you getting back into a rhythm with 3 to 4 workouts a week? What's on your schedule right now? What's your day like?
It's actually not when I think about it, it's and maybe you can help me work through it. It's like being able to prioritize a workout instead of spending time on the business, because in my head, it's like
Sure.
we need to devote all the attention to keep things running right now. And so devoting that or like pulling the time away from it seems like, oh, I need to devote it to the business or I need to be working right now so that I can not be working out when I'm with the kids or whatever it is. And so it's like that's the battle that I'm trying to get through, right? And maybe it's like a short term sort of outlook of I'm taking a loan, right, against future energy and sacrificing it today. But that's sort of what's prevented it is like there's a time slot, after I pick up the kids and drop them off at after school program. And it's like, do I spend 90 minutes going to the gym and driving there and coming back? Or do I spend that 90 minutes, devoted to the business because we're just trying to put
Yeah.
out fires and keep the ship running right now.
Well, I have a couple of ideas. You want to go over them and we can kind of see what works. I think this is awesome, by the way. I like, thanks for being vulnerable and talking through this with me.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, if you're in a season of life where you really feel like, hey, like there isn't a chance for balance, I actually think that that is okay. So that's the first thing I want to say is like, if you
Right.
need to buckle down in your business and that like sometimes you can't juggle all the balls and you need to set one of these down. But I want you to make that decision clearly so that you're not harboring this guilt that you're being like, I'm a piece of shit because I'm not doing this thing. So if there truly isn't another option, okay, let's roll with
Right.
that. Right.
Well, I think that's a good thing to address, right? In the sense of I'm hedging between both. I'm like, I'm still and not committing to one or the other. But then therefore it allows that sort of judgment, right? Or that's
Yeah,
what that sort of
exactly. Because you're
programming.
kind of feeling like you're stuck in the middle. Now, that being said, from what you've told me, there are benefits to focusing on your fitness and that you feel like the time that you have in your business is maybe you feel a little bit more clarity or more energy or just more focus in those sessions, right?
Well, I think just another thing as I was thinking out is that I also put some pretty specific constraints on like, oh, why wasn't I
Yeah.
doing it?
Oh,
I
I
was
was
like,
going to
oh,
get to it.
I was like, oh, there's 9, I'm like, oh, but it takes 15, 20 minutes to get to the gym, 15, 20 minutes. But I'm like, I don't have to do that. And then
No, you don't.
I've,
We were going to get there. I was going one by one, but I for sure noticed you said that.
yeah, which is also just like, oh, okay. Like if I accept that I don't have the time right now to do what I did before, and I just accept that
Yeah.
it's not going to look like what it looked like before,
Not going to look the same.
then it
Yeah.
allows me to adjust and be like, for this time period or for,
Yeah.
right,
What does the best version of this look like for me right now at this phase in my life
right.
that I still get benefit from and is still worth the trade off in time and energy for because the benefit feels great and I'm still investing in my long term health, right? There's other things here. So, yeah. So, for example, maybe that, and this is where that primary thing that I think can really help people is learning how to dial up and dial down your workout or your nutrition without flipping the light switch on and off, right?
Yes.
Where you're like, either it's 90 minutes in the gym 4 times a week, or I'm a pig and a pile of shit and I'm not
Right.
doing anything, right? Which one is it? And then we're like, well, I think there's a middle ground here that still you can be really successful. So maybe that looks like 20 or 30 minutes at home, right? Maybe that looks like some days you do have the time and energy and you want to go and do that longer workout in the gym. Cool. What I tend to see happens is people set that as the standard then in their mind. We're like, that's the standard of what a real workout is. It's 90 minutes in the gym. So on those days when you only have 5 minutes, you only have 10 minutes, you're like, well, why even bother? Right. And it's like, no, 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 no. You can still you're still making an investment in your fitness bank with that 5 to 10 minutes. You didn't input zero. You didn't do nothing. You still did something. And when we know that you only have 5 to 10 minutes, we can change your strategy for how you're approaching your workout a little bit to try to get the most bang for your buck for that time.
It's just a great lesson in being flexible.
Yeah, for sure. Which is something that, like, I mean, honestly, as dads and as business owners running businesses, working, like, it's the lesson that keeps coming up in many different ways, right? Keep getting taught again and again.
Well, I think there's something to, that the cycles are happening so much quicker that we're being forced to evolve at a quicker pace, where life seasons, I would imagine, and I'm only guessing, but in talking to previous generations, it seemed like life moved much slower. My life changed much slower. And so,
Mm-hmm.
for us, we achieve a new baseline, we sort of figure it out. And then whether it's from the external world, and policies and changes or markets or whatever it is, or it's like the internal world or, families and such, like life is moving at such a quicker pace that if we're not willing to adjust quick enough, then at least like I'm seeing like, oh, you're getting stuck in these patterns that worked in a different sort of season, but
Yeah.
time changed and you were thinking it was still, July and it's fucking, the dead of winter or whatever. And so we need to adjust and be flexible.
Yeah. That's the number one thing that I see leads to consistency in the long run and actually better results in the long run. Because when people are stuck in that framework where they're like, it's either got to look like this or nothing, you end up just like, that's what we were talking about. You just yo up and down for years, right? And when you're like, I'm in a really crazy phase in life, this needs to look different for a little bit. You're still making that slow, steady progress over time. And I know it's not as sexy as like going all in and just like burning the midnight oil, but it's the thing that I've seen to be most consistently effective for the majority of people.
I don't know how unique I am. I like to think I'm fucking really unique and real special, but I don't know how true that is. But at least for me, I find that, and no pun intended, but I like to nerd out on different things to find what works, right? Find the solution for that season. For a while, I was super into kettlebells for like a while. And then, for a
Hmm.
while, I got like super into hypertrophy training. And for a while, it was like hit training. And like part of it, as I'm looking back on it, was like, oh, I needed something to fit this season. And so, at least for me, I started just nerding out and I'd read books. And I remember, reading, I think it's called like Enter the Kettlebell, or I don't know,
Yeah, Pavel. Yeah.
Pavel's, legendary book, and like just nerding out. And back then there wasn't, YouTube content and such. But the point being is like, I think other people, they need to find a one-on-one person or join some sort of community or something. But there's like different ways to fill that solution. In your mind, like what's the menu of options that people have when they're like, okay, I don't know what the answers are, but the answers are obviously out there. Like, how do you recommend people find those solutions?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting question. I would say that in general, we run nerdfitness.com, right? We have our own coaching program and we field lots and lots of questions, right? Around like, hey, I need help. Where do I start? The first thing is that if you're just getting started, I would try to point you to a simple free workout, right? If you're like not sure what to do, like you're like, I'm not like, because you're going to learn so much from taking action and trying stuff. I see a lot of people get stuck in kind of this analysis paralysis where they're trying to find the perfect solution for this season of life or whatever their situation is. And usually the best starting point is something that's simple, approachable, and could be flexible for many different seasons of life, right? Because you're starting with something that's not too complex or requires too much time in the beginning. We have something like that at nerdfitness.com/workout. It's a free workout. It will give you a really good baseline. It's body weight. You can do it anywhere. And it even shows you how to kind of like adjust it up and down based on how your day is. So,
Do you think that a sort of a DIY body weight is like a almost like an either a diagnostic or like a good starting place
yeah, for most
for
people,
people?
right?
Right.
If you know that you like something and you want to follow that, like go for it. But if you're at the point where you're just like, I don't even know where to start, 9 times out of 10, simple body weight, flexible workout that you could do anywhere on a limited time frame is going to be a great baseline to then build anything else off of that you want to, right?
Y- That leads me to another question that I hadn't thought about before, but I think is a good follow up is like, are you a big believer in a particular path, whether that is hit training or CrossFit, whatever you want to sort of, like here's a lane of fitness that, I wouldn't call it like a religion, but in the same way, like where there are certain
Yeah.
practices and like, you do this, like, do you have any favorites that you think should be on people's menus or at least people be aware of?
Nope. I'm fitness agnostic. I really honestly like the same thing when it comes to nutrition. What I care about is understanding the underlying principles and why something is working. And then you're not stuck in any one path for too long. I have been stuck in single like modalities where I was like, I'm only into kettlebells, I'm only into CrossFit, I'm only into parkour, I'm only into Olympic weightlifting. Like I've done all that before. And it was cool. Like I enjoyed it. But what I've realized is that it also blinded me quite a bit, right? To what was going on underneath. So, like for me, the first rule is move often. So, like, literally anything that you do that you enjoy, that you can get in, that gets you up and moving, like, that's step one. Like, that's the first level, right? And then the second level is, hey, we probably should do some resistance training or some sort of strength training in general, right? A couple times a week. That is important for everybody, right? It's important for dudes in their 30s who are trying to like stay in shape and maintain muscle mass and look good and feel good. It's also important for 70-year-old grandmas who want to maintain bone density and like not break a hip when they fall, right? Like important for everybody. Whether you want to do that with a barbell, a dumbbell, a kettlebell, do it in intervals with CrossFit, do it in straight sets with hypertrophy training. Honestly, it's like different flavors of the same ice cream. It all tastes good. It's all fine if it fits you. I'm more concerned about what works for you and that you're hitting the underlying principle than being married to any one modality. And then the third thing would be like doing a little bit of flexibility and mobility training so your joints are still moving good and getting your heart rate elevated a few times a week. Once we do that, everything else is like really specific based on what you care about and enjoy. And the same thing honestly comes to nutrition. It's the same thing with nutrition. Nutrition, you have keto camp, you have intermittent fasting camp, you have paleo camp, you have Mediterranean camp, you have if it fits your macros camp. Like when you look at all of these things, what are the things that any of them do that if it works for you, what is it doing well? In general, if we want to really be broad about it, it like gets you the right amount of calories and energy that you need, whatever that is. It helps you get enough protein and fiber and vitamins and minerals. And if it's doing those things, if keto works for you, great. Well, the problem with becoming married to any one modality is that you're like, just do keto, right? Or just do this thing. Well, I've seen it. I could give you a ketogenic diet to one person and they lose a ton of weight and they feel great. And I could give it to another person and it totally doesn't work for them. And why is that? I mean, we've all done this, right? We've all had a friend who went on the diet and you're like, it didn't work for me the same way. Like, what's up? And it's because those diets are just frameworks that affect your behaviors. So now I'm getting nerdy. You told me it was okay to get nerdy on here. I'm going deep in the sauce now, Hector. So I could give someone like, let's say intermittent fasting. I could put someone on intermittent fasting and they could feel like, oh, I only have 6 hours to eat. I need to get in as much food as I possibly can in the 6 hours so I'm not hungry all the rest of the day. And they could actually gain weight on intermittent fasting because they're trying to just like fit it all in. And I could give intermittent fasting protocol to someone else and they're like, oh, this kind of changes my normal eating patterns. I'm not eating as much naturally because I just feel more full from meal times because I'm having bigger meals. And I just naturally eat a little less and I've lost weight. And those two people are going to be on Reddit saying very different things about whether intermittent fasting works or not, right? It's because it's not about the modality. It's about what that modality, what CrossFit, what ketogenic diet, what X thing does to affect your behavior and affect those underlying core principles. If you are able to go on a keto diet and get the right amount of energy that you need and get the nutrients and minerals and protein that you need, you're going to do great. And if you don't, it's not going to be for you. You could do CrossFit. And if you are able to do it in a way that is fun for you, that allows you to do strength training, get your heart rate up a few times a week and stay injury free, you're going to do great. And if you go on CrossFit and you just get hurt all the time because you get so competitive, you push yourself further than you should, then it's not for you. So there's not one modality in nutrition or fitness that I think any person should be married to. That being said, if you find the thing that works for you, like more power to you. You don't have like just stick with it.
That's a great point because I share similar thoughts now, but I made the same mistake in the sense of thinking that there was only one solution or one way, and being frankly stubborn about what changing.
Well, I would say the pattern that I see in general with that stuff, though, is that when you first get into anything, so like if you're just starting off in fitness or just starting to like kind of care about your diet and try to pay attention to nutrition, it is way easier to have someone say, it's black and white, this is the way, right? That's a way easier place to be. You're like, oh, cool. That just simplified my decision making process. All I have to do is worry about this one thing. And what you realize is that it's not a universal solution for everybody all the time, forever. And so when that solution stops working for you, when life changes, right? When you get into different phases in life and different seasons of life, if you're married to the one modality, then you're going to miss the different solutions that are available to you.
I think it's about being married and not being willing to adjust based on either the results or based on the season, which
Yeah.
which I'm realizing for me was like, oh, you finally figured it out, and then oh, they like changed the landscape. It's like the setting
Rules of the game changed.
right, right.
Got to have a new answer. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious though. We are heading into a new era where there are so many more modalities. Whether
Sure.
it's we talked about on a recent episode GLP-1s and other peptides. There's technology. There's obviously information. So you're sort of in the weeds and like you're nerding out like all the time, on this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Are there things that are crossing your radar that you think that are worth at least looking into or pursuing as an avenue that might work for them, whether it's stuff that's been around for a while already or new things?
Good question. I guess I would give you an answer in multiple parts. The first would be that you mentioned GLP-1s, and I'm seeing on a like on the boots, like ground level, right? I am not a GLP-1 researcher. So don't come at me on that side of things. But what I'm seeing is that I think most people don't have a concept of how intense food noise is and how it varies person to person. So, based on your environment, based on your genes, based on everything, like one person experiences the world very differently than you might. I especially think, honestly, that a bunch of young 20-year-olds who are super into fitness, this is like a thing that they miss a lot is they're just like, everyone should just do what I do when I'm 22. And the thing I care about the most in the world is fitness. You should care as much about fitness as I do, and you should do what I do. And that's not like a very empathetic or realistic approach. And what I've seen on the ground level with GLP-1s is that they are incredibly effective and incredibly helpful for the right person when under the supervision of your doc. So I have plenty of clients that have gone on GLP-1s and it's life changing because all of a sudden, like this constant like background noise where they're thinking about food all day, like it just gets turned down. It's just like quieted. All of a sudden they can focus on other things in their day and their energy goes other places. And if you've never experienced that level of food noise, you probably don't even know what it feels like, to be honest.
I didn't even know that was a thing. But as you're sort of thinking
Yeah.
about it, like there are people, and my kids do it sometimes. So I imagine they have some high food noise because it runs in the other side of the family. I ask her, I'm like, are you bored or are you hungry? Like,
Yeah.
and she's like, and she just walks away. She's like, she's been caught. But I would
Yeah.
imagine that for me, that doesn't register. And part of the reason why I do intermittent fasting is because otherwise, I didn't even know how to create a term for that. But I'm like, oh, that's what that is. It's just
Yeah.
food noise.
Yeah. Food noise. And it's very different for different people. And the way that we like to think it, since we're nerd fitness, right, is like it's a video game, but not everyone's playing on the same difficulty setting. And so GLP-1s help even the playing field more.
Is this sort of the
Uh,
first either technology or medication that turned that down, or that was like a factor? Or are there other things that people can do?
yeah. Well, think about, okay, I don't think we've ever found something that's as effective at targeting this in the history of humankind. That's why it's so potent and effective because you're modifying the internal environment. But classic fitness advice in some ways is aimed at that. Like what high protein diet. Why do we do high protein diets or often recommend high protein diets? One, because it helps with building muscle and maintaining muscle mass when you're on a caloric deficit. So when you're losing weight, it's easier to maintain your muscle. You're losing fat instead of muscle, right? When you're on a high protein diet. But protein is also the most satiating macronutrient. It's the thing that makes you feel the most full out of anything, right? So like we've ever gone through like the mental experiment where you're like, hey, you say you're hungry. Would you eat a steak right now? Would you eat a plain chicken breast right now? And you're like, I don't want chicken breast. I want sweet, salty, like, I want potato chips and ice cream. Then there's something else going on there, right? There's like some other behavioral things going on that you're tapping into. And so, like, high protein diets can help with satiation. We know that often working out can help people regulate their appetites better overall. But the effect of those things is much smaller than like a targeted pharmaceutical is, right? So that's why I think it's just going to be way bigger impact and something we're going to be seeing. I honestly think the fitness landscape has been changed forever by GLP-1s. And we're just going to continue to see the impact of that as they become less stigmatized. Because I think there's still a lot of stigma around GLP-1 usage. And that's one of the things that we see because we're like our whole company is built around helping people develop healthy fitness habits. Right. And we support people in that. We provide personalized workout plans and nutrition guidance and help with the mindset stuff like we were working on earlier. Like, hey, I noticed you're saying that about yourself. I don't know if that's helpful. Could we talk about that? Is that there's still a huge stigma within the fitness industry at large of like GLP-1s are cheating or discipline it, bro. Like do it the hard way, the right way. And one of our roles as coaches has been to just be neutral. Just be neutral about it and be like, this is one of the tools on the table if you want to talk about it with your doc. And what I've had is I've had clients that are literally like, I'm never going to do that. And then they're like, well, and I'm like, hey, it's cool if you want to do it or not. I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing it. I just want you to know that it's okay if you do want to do it. And here's some information about it if you are interested in learning more. And then like a couple months later, they'll be like, I talked to my doctor. It actually sounds like could be cool, but you wouldn't judge me for taking it, would you? And I'm like, no judgment. If this is something that works for you in this season of life, like we've been talking about, awesome. And then they get on it and they feel amazing.
Is the
And you're like,
conversation different for like steroids? Because that's also like, I don't know how prevalent that conversation is with like 30-something-year-old guys. I imagine the younger guys, it's probably a little more, or maybe it's just something that pops up on my YouTube. But like, do you have a similar outlook on something like that? Or where do you draw the line?
sure. I've never been interested in taking steroids personally. I've never coached anyone that I know was knowingly taking steroids. Not that I would, if they're doing it, I'm going to support them in whatever other way I can. Right. So I'm not going to like, this is the whole thing. I'm neutral about it. If it's the decision that you want to make with your body, I am neutral about it. I wouldn't do the same thing where I'm trying to destigmatize steroid usage, like I'm trying to destigmatize GLP-1 because GLP-1 is like doctor regulated and tested by the FDA.
Right.
So I'm not out there being like, hey, have you thought about steroids? It could be an option on the table for you. But I'm also not going to judge someone for their usage of it as long as they're doing it in a way that is safe and doctor monitored as much as you can be and doing regular blood work and also going in knowing the risks, because I think that that's the problem that we see in the fitness industry, especially with younger kids getting on steroids like really early and doing it, or even in their early 20s, is not fully understanding the long-term health risks or potentially even being in a position to appreciate what those risks are fully, because you're kind of in a phase of life where you're just like, just pedal to the metal, bro. Let's go. Let's do it. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
see it, and I'm able to sort of. Unfortunately, I only laugh because it's like, what am I to get angry at them? And but that seems to bring a sense of judgment, and also I worry that we are going to see some major fallout from that, in the coming years, and so
yeah, it could be. And again, because I don't take steroids and I don't coach people on steroids, my knowledge of this is really just from a basic level on the outside. So, but I
well, I
but
think
I do know the risks are real, right? The risks are real. There are people that are experts in steroids that talk about it and try to educate about it. And I think it's also like the thing that I've appreciated about the people that I go to learn about like that kind of stuff is that they're trying to present both sides, right? They're trying to be like, here are the real risks, here are the benefits. You have to decide for yourself whether that's worth the trade-off, right? And I think that's ultimately the thing with any decision that someone comes to me with. It can be to back out of steroids, but it could be like you, Hector. You come to me and you're like, hey, I really want to try intermittent fasting. I think it sounds great. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to be like, yes, let's do it. And here are the things to think about. Here are the potential pitfalls that could happen. Here are the benefits that could happen. Let's try it and be ready to pivot if it's not what you thought it was. That's the conversation that we'd have, right? So I'm here to support you doing the thing you want. And then if you're trying to do something that I legitimately think is dangerous for you, then I would draw the line in the sand, right? As a coach. And I'd be like, hey, can I offer a concern about the direction that we're heading? Like, can we talk about this? I have some concerns. You'd be like, yeah, Matt, what's going on? Because I'm just so friendly that you definitely want to listen to me and my opinions. And then I'd be like, hey, this, and this. I think these are real concerns I have. I want to make sure you're safe.
yeah, I think it's
So,
important to have someone like that that's a human and informed, and like you said, that filter. And I know that's what you guys, so much of what you guys do. So I've got two questions for you. The first is,
yep.
if people want to get more involved with you guys at Nerd Fitness or go deeper in your world, find out about the resources, where's the best place for people to go?
Yeah. Nerdfitness.com and then nerdfitness.com/workout. Get a free workout. It's literally going to be that thing that we talked about before. It will be a short, simple bodyweight workout that you can do anywhere. And I'll teach you how to dial it down on those crazy, hectic, everything is on fire days. So you can stay consistent and keep going. And then you can ramp it back up on those days when you're feeling good. So it kind of adjusts to your season of life. Love to give that to your audience as a gift from me to them. And if you want someone in your corner who's a real human, who gives a crap about you and helps you get that extra support and clarity around where you're headed and what the key factors are and helps you follow through, check out Nerd Fitness Coaching. We'd love to talk with you.
We'll link all that up as well for your listeners. And my last question, Matt, is in your opinion, what is the definition of modern masculinity?
I'm going to give you the coach version of this, which is it depends. You're going to get lots of definitions. I'm sure you've gotten lots of definitions on this show. But I think what you're asking is less of a definition of like, what is the term, but what does it mean to me, right? Like, what does modern masculinity mean to me? What does it mean to show up as? I think it actually means showing up in the world with an attitude to serve, to be empathetic to those around you, and to be willing to be vulnerable and grow. I think it's about being a rock and also being vulnerable. If that makes sense. Like you're a rock, you're an anchor for your business, your family, your friends. But I think we've learned that you can't just be a rock, an island unto yourself, that some amount of vulnerability and empathy goes a long way. And so that's probably where I'd put it. I really like the saying from one of the modalities I used to train in, actually, which was be strong to be useful. And I really like that mental framework. That's gotten me a long way too.